Welcome to What the Hell Happened This Week. Um, just so y'all know, right before we go live, Dustin and I do a quick run through of topics. We don't do any like planning. We don't actually we wanted to share notes. The plan was to like come up with some shared note and share notes throughout the week, but we literally just show up here 5 or 10 minutes before and run through a few topics. And today I literally showed up and was like, kind of a slow week, right? No, I just wrote down like 15 things. So let, let's
Yeah, it's
go.
just another disaster-filled week, everybody. But at least we can get together and talk about it and,
Right. It's
you
just
know,
like this is our new norm. We're living in a
yeah.
this is a reality show. So there's always going to be some source of drama happening. This week was no disappointment. We almost mentioned this last week because it was only a couple days old. And people weren't as worried or ringing the alarm yet, but Trump was MIA for 6 days, which was like the longest we had not heard from him. It was kind of nice to have a little reprieve.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, there was like no constitutional violations that happened probably within those 6 days. Um, no crisis for a quick moment.
what do you think happened? What do you think? What's your theory?
I think he definitely had some medical issues
Hmm.
and was in the hospital for a while. So it wasn't, people were saying that maybe he died and stuff like that. I I think he had some sort of surgery or something because they had doctors all over Twitter coming out, looking at his medicine that he's been taking because they released those reports still because they don't talk about his physical state at all unless pressured to do so. And he's been having some medical issues that they finally released in the last month or two. He's got those patches on his hand and people saying that he had some kind of device in his jacket in his announcement the other day. So I think there's definitely something there.
Yeah. So I think something had to have happened for him to go silent for that long. You know what I thought was interesting? I watched David Packman had a Substack live with Sarah Matthews, who is the former deputy press secretary, and he brought her on, and she shared this story about how when she was there and the other like press team, this man doesn't. I think on his phone he really only has access to like um to True Social and like a couple of social media platforms, but I don't think he's like on there often. Because she was saying that they would be able to filter the information that he receives like through them by like printout paper. So there's this like apparently there's this woman who follows him around and they coined her the human printer because he likes to have things like printed off and given to him. And
Mm.
she said two things happened. She said it's a way of like filtering because she said you have to be careful what you put in front of him because it sticks in his brain. This is her quote, sticks in his brain and he'll just start repeating it.
Mm.
So like that's a way to filter and it's also a way to butter him up. So they'll like print out like supposed like wins or things that make
Yeah,
him look
all the good
good
news. Yeah,
and
yeah,
present it in front. How weird is that? Like, and also it just really speaks to his age, his like, you know, reading comprehension, all kinds of things. Thought that was a
yes,
very interesting story and tell.
yeah. That makes sense. I think the only stuff that he watches live is maybe like Fox and Friends and Hannity and stuff like that that he calls into. I think that's what he really likes doing is just watching
Mm.
TV.
That's why, like, when they asked him at the press conference, they were like, "What did you realize that you were quote unquote dead?" And he was like, "No, hadn't heard of that." He either was lying, which I don't know. It's hard to try and decipher whether he's lying or
Whether
not.
he's
But
lying or not, because he's always lying.
yeah, but it almost seemed like a genuine, like, "Oh, I didn't know that," because he's been in the hospital, and they probably didn't tell him about the rumors.
Hmm. Yeah,
Anyway, just thought that was a fun story.
yeah, crazy. Um, I think there was something that came out today that was really disturbing, and it kind of matched with that announcement, when his first announcement after he showed that, hey, I'm not dead. Because his announcement that day, I think it was like Tuesday or something, was like he's moving the Space Force to
Mhm.
Alabama from
Mhm.
Colorado, which
Mhm.
is disturbing anyway, because he's showing just like political preference. Because, like, as a matter of national security, you want the Space Force, which you want it close to all of our other important agencies that are monitoring like military events around the world, So, and a lot of those are already in Colorado. They build them into like the mountains and stuff. So it's like a bunker and
Mhm.
it's like nuclear control and all that stuff. So, like, just saying that we're going to move it to Alabama is, you know, it's scary in itself. But he's also doing some other things that are disturbing. Changing, I think he's about to announce, I don't know if he did yet, changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War,
Mhm.
which, I mean, why do that? There was, what's the astronaut, Mark Kelly, he's a U.S. Senator, former astronaut, former veteran, said, only a person that has uh,
Dodge the draft.
dodged the draft would name the Department of Defense to the Department of War. It just kind of shows what kind of guy he is. And there was two other disturbing reports that happened this week. One was today. Uh, uh, Earlier this week, we saw that they sent a missile to and blew up a boat that was leaving, like, I think it was Venezuela or somewhere in South
It was
America.
Venezuela. Yeah.
And they were saying that it was like drug terrorists or whatever. So they just like sent a missile and blew this boat up. Like, we have no evidence. We don't know nothing. They didn't release anything. Um, just the fact that
Did you see Hegseth uh like answering questions about that? It was sick.
I think I saw like a clip or something, but yeah.
Like
What did he
just
say?
he was just so, of course, like doubling down, like, of course we did it. And, I would do it again. And they're doing illegal stuff. And, of course, like 100,000 illegals brought drugs and murder and stuff, just kind of telling lies to seemingly try to justify it. But it was just like complete contempt for any due process. It was just like, yeah, I fucking did it. And everyone else better watch out. That was the
Yeah.
attitude.
And that's what they do, is they like put us on this like defense, like, so are you defending drug dealers? Like, Democrats are defending drug dealers and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
like, no, it's not about that. It's like, first of all, it's a war crime. You're
Hmm.
not supposed to just blow something up from the Department of Defense and like just kill
It's mar
people.
it's maritime, like global rules that
Right.
you can't do that.
Yeah, and we know nothing about this situation other than what they told us. Um, and that's, it's something that, yeah, there was four people killed. Maybe they were drug smugglers or whatever, but just showing that they're normalizing, and they've been doing that for months now, normalizing just eliminating due process rights
And violence.
and violence.
It
Yes.
it felt very what's that video game that everyone references? Call of Duty.
Mm,
it felt very Call of
right.
Duty to me.
Appealing to his base.
Mhm.
And the other article that just came out today, I didn't read the full New York Times article, but people were posting about it. That New York Times reported that during Trump's last administration, I think it was 2019, they sent SEAL Team 6 to North Korea on a mission to like go plant listening devices and in like some palaces or whatever. And when they were in the water off the coast of North Korea, I guess the SEAL team got spotted by a boat of fishermen. And so, thinking that they were like caught or whatever, and that this may be reported back to North Korea, they just decided to like kill all the fishermen and just like blow up the boat, and then decided to abort the mission. It's just,
What?
yeah,
It's
that was just
so
reported. Is scary. The fact that they just went in there and did something like that, and I'll read the full article soon, but um, yeah, things
fast
are not good.
forward fast forward to the press conference of the presidents and leaders of China, India, Russia, probably soon Venezuela, all getting together. And I mean, this is what old school Republicans, this is their worst nightmare, right? This should be all Americans' worst nightmare is the deepening of the relationship, especially between India and China, and Russia. And the last thing we need is unifiers, especially even now to North Korea. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is, it was a big deal seeing Russia, President Xi, Putin, and Modi from India all together, buddy buddy. Like those are three of the biggest economies in the world, and showing that. It, and I think the most alarming thing was India, because India, we've been trying to nurture that relationship for the last 20 years because it's such a big economy. I mean, between China and India. I mean, there's 2 or 3 billion people together. It's a growing economy. India, uh, for the most part, is a democracy and has the rule of law in markets that we want to keep and develop. And the fact that Trump has pissed off everybody. Around the world, all of our allies, even India, he's throwing India into their arms, and all of these things. People may say, "Oh, it's not a big deal," but from an economic perspective and the future of our economic prosperity in the world, this is a very bad thing that happened.
yeah, I don't think people realize the magnitude of what's happening under our feet or right in front of our faces, really. Um, I think that there's so many ripple effects to his decisions and everything that he's doing that it's easy to pretend like everything is normal right now, like, okay, we're getting some like bad job numbers, but the stock market keeps going up and um life as we know it is still we're all going to work, we're all taking our kids to school. Life around us seems normal, but these ripple effects are going to catch up with us eventually, and it's all going to come down and affect the middle class and working class and the poor working class the most. That's the end of it, and they're already starting to feel the effects. But this is going to be massive um, tremors after the original earthquake.
Yeah, I mean, there's the signs are like popping up everywhere that we could already be in a recession. And I always say like could be already be in a recession because we never can confirm that we're in a recession until at least 3 months later, 3 to 6 months later, because the definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP. And we're seeing the numbers. I mean, we reported on this a few weeks ago about how they fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics because
Mhm.
of the job numbers. We're seeing more bad job numbers come out. We're seeing mortgage applications drop. I think it's the worst since 2009 or something during the last mortgage crisis. We're seeing
That's
uh,
alarming.
huge numbers of consumer credit, so regular people and their credit and debt that they have is showing. So if we do have a
Snowballing.
recession, it could be a major recession. We're seeing inflation go up at the same time that our economy is stagnating. So we could be on the verge, and we're probably already on the verge of a stagflation economy, which stagnant economy plus inflation, which is kind of a worst case scenario we haven't really seen since the 70s and the 80s. Because once you're kind of stuck in a stagflation environment, it's like really hard to get out of. Um, all of these things, like it didn't have to be this way. This is a MAGA induced recession that we're going to be facing, and already we have talked about this before. The GOP is just bad on economics all around. People think that the GOP and Republicans are just good on the economy because they just present themselves that way because they just give tax cuts and regulation cuts to business. So if you're a business person or own stock, sometimes it makes the stock go higher temporarily. But this is all trickle down economics that people. the Republicans think, well, just business is everything. You just got to help out business and corporations, and then everybody will do better. And it's not. The economy is people. It's not businesses. Like businesses can't make money unless people are doing well and they have money to spend. That there's lower poverty, that there's the rule of law. All of these things make up the economy, and that's why the GOP is so bad on it because they only focus on the short-term bottom line of corporations. And now MAGA is taking not only bad economics by the GOP historically, because again, every time we've had a Republican president, we've gone into a major recession. Like almost all of the job growth over the last 50, 60 years was under Democratic presidents. Like the facts don't lie. And now we're facing it again. But in this case, because MAGA is so far right wing, they're taking it's like bad GOP policy on steroids. So we
Mhm.
could be facing some tough times, and we're seeing it in the price of gold going up. Gold does well um, in three different ways. When there's inflation, gold does well. When there's a lot of fear and uncertainty, then gold does well. And when the dollar is declining in value, and now we have all three things happening. That's why we're seeing gold and precious metals go up, and it's not a very good sign at all. Like I'm very worried about our economy here in the near months, and we're getting to a point now here these next couple months. Typically, whenever recessions happen, they usually happen around this time. They around September, October. I mean, some of the worst declines in the economy and the stock market usually happen. I mean, we've had Black October. During the financial crisis, that's whenever things really started getting bad. Was the Octobers then? 1987. Um, big recession was in October. So I
Mhm.
think we really have to worry about it. And yes, the stock market is going up right now. Uh, it's holding up. It's not necessarily soaring because we're kind of at a point now where in economics or when we're talking, because me and you are financial advisors, we see this that sometimes when there's bad news, it's good news for the stock market in a way because they think that we're going to get rate cuts, which temporarily boost the
Mm.
stock market. Um, so to me, all of these are red flags. So yes, the markets may look good for now, but there's going to be some rocky things that happen in the coming months.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in November after the election, like everyone was like, let's screenshot these economy numbers because right now we have the envy of the world, the economy, like with the Infrastructure Act and everything, things were up, up, up. Um, and so people who try and say that it's like at this point you can't claim that it is Biden's economy. It is 110% Trump's. And just to kind of reiterate what you were saying, that the stagflation not even just a leading indicator of a recession; it's a leading indicator of a depression. Like you said, it can kind of be like a quicksand effect. Um, we've been talking a lot about, in a lot of our posts, diversifiers, like what can you do with your money? We've been talking about and having our client move to like some type of position of gold and precious metals since like February, I think. Um, and we're starting to have some clients as we're recommending that. If you take a look at gold, it's like you just said recently, it shot up again. And then I think it's just like natural for someone to see it at a high and think, I feel like I'm missing the boat where it's like now I shouldn't get in now because it's at all time highs. But as you and I were discussing earlier in this week and with that client, gold doesn't really act like stocks and bonds. There's no business behind it. And as you said, it's tied to inflation, uncertainty, and fear, and the perceived value of the dollar. And in this instance, we're sitting here looking at the data in front of us, combined with historical months of September and October. And like you said, there may be temporary rises, which we've been seeing, but eventually something's got to give, right? It's not sustainable. So that's why we're trying to let people know that now's the time. If you're worried, now's the time to diversify a little more. And I've been using the analogy of like playing roulette. You've got all your squares on the table, and we don't know what's going to happen. So try and put a chip on every square of that table. And yes, the precious metals, gold is one of them. There's still a lot of potential uh, for gold and precious metals and some other alternative assets to go higher, because I think in some instances, like even people in the financial industry, I think their normalcy bias is more than ours. And so eventually people are going to start waking up to this economic data. And I think it could potentially go a lot higher.
Yeah, and the biggest worry to me is during the last big financial crises that we went through. The last one was the COVID crisis. People may forget that we were in free fall. The markets were in free fall during that happened. And luckily, we had a Democratic Congress that realized that and put together packages to help people get through that time. Um, we had I think it was the CARE Act and things like that. They have PPP that help businesses. Of course, that was abused, just like some of our programs in the past that helped us get out of recession. But at least we were able to act. Our Congress was able to act and do some things. During the financial crisis, whenever I lived through it, 2007, 2008, 2009, we again, we had a Democratic Congress, luckily, that put together some plans to infuse cash into the system that really saved us from a depression. Um, and it takes a lot of public investment. It takes a lot of cash infusions from the government. It takes the Federal Reserve acting, all of those things. And now, luckily we had a lot of those safeguards during Trump's last term, but now that he has completely um, uh, fired everybody, we have none of those safeguards anymore, and we have a Congress that uh, is completely MAGA right now. If we don't win the midterms um, next year, I just don't have faith that if we're under huge economic problems that they will do the right thing. I think the odds are higher that they'll do the wrong thing and throw us into a deeper because they're not going to do anything that's considered democratic, as far
Right.
as public investment or spending money to help people out whenever they're on the edge, as far as like Medicaid, um, welfare, so many other things, job loss, job security, unemployment insurance, all those things are going to be wiped out potentially. So I'm very worried about it.
Yeah, I think about I follow modern monetary theory. Stephanie Kelton, in her book, she actually criticizes Obama and saying that he didn't do enough after the financial crisis, that we could have
Mhm.
done a lot more
Yeah,
and the recovery could have been even better than it
yeah,
was.
no
And
doubt,
and,
no
and
doubt.
especially that he didn't act soon enough. And so then you put that a similar situation in, like you said, a MAGA Congress, and they're the leaders of, oh, don't increase the debt, except if it's for their stuff and for their companies and and
Yeah,
and
for
and
tax
their
cuts.
and their oligarchs.
Yeah,
And and so, and also doubled with, oh, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. They don't believe in any of these social programs. So yeah, it sounds like a really recipe for disaster. The only thing I can think of is just like how Donald Trump signed the checks, those first COVID checks that went out. That's maybe the only thing I could see is like an opportunity for him to be the hero of the mess that he created.
hmm
But all of that is, like you said, the trickle down economics, the anti uh, debt, not wanting to raise the debt ceiling, the bootstraps mentality. Perfect
yeah,
storm. Perfect
yeah.
storm.
Austerity is the worst thing to do. That's what they call it. That means, belt tightening is the worst thing to do it in a major recession. Like people need help. The best thing to do is always uh, not focus on the corporations. You have to do that to a point, because sometimes it's a snowball effect and things some businesses may need temporary cash infusions, but but the people especially do. So they're going to be faced with a choice. Do we have more social benefits for people that are at, you know, high job loss numbers across the United States, and people, sinking into poverty and debt, and their debt blowing up on them? Are they gonna act on helping those people, which is going to be a very large amount of people? To me, they're going to go the other way. Um, if anything, I think they may blame it on government spending and use that as an excuse to cut even more,
Exactly.
and which could drive us even deeper. And I just want to remind everybody too, while manufacturing is being destroyed right now because of tariffs, which Trump and MAGA think the opposite would happen. We knew it wouldn't. Manufacturing is being destroyed right now. People are starting to lose their jobs. Layoffs are going up. Trump's fortune is up $5 billion in the last 6 months. $5 billion. So that just shows you where the priorities are of the GOP. Not only is it just funding their rich friends in the oligarchy and the big corporations, it's now to funnel as much money as possible to their master and Donald Trump's family.
That this isn't the biggest story of the year just shows like how much chaos there is. Like the biggest theft of our lives right in front of our face. Now,
Yeah,
he a lot of that's in that crypto they launched. They cannot sell that yet, but it is calculated in their net worth.
hmm
Um, yeah,
they'll
it's
find they'll
insane.
find a way to sell it and make
Yeah,
as much money as they can. They will do it.
it's not going to just disappear. It's
Yeah.
not nothing. It's not imaginary. It is very real.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it is in danger of losing value, I could see Donald Trump and all the sycophants in Congress doing whatever they can in their power
To
to
bail it
prop
out.
that, yes, to prop up that valuation as long as possible so he can
Hmm.
sell it before everything tanks.
I mean, this is everything he does is basically to increase his net worth and avoid jail.
Hmm.
I mean, and we're seeing that play out with the Epstein files. Like, I was just watching Speaker Johnson do an interview of like, Trump's he's a good man and he feels sorry for these victims. He feels awful about what's happened to them. And it's like, shut up and release the files. And I really, really hope the victims, I understand the predicament they're in, and their attorney says something like they would be sued into homelessness.
Right.
Um, I really hope they're not forced to have to come out. But some of the senators who and Congresswoman took to the floor and said, and she basically said, this goes all the way to the top, wink and a nod, like all the way to the top, because she spoke to them individually. And I don't know. Last week, everyone was excited about the potential of a demise. And a lot of people are, and I was holding back though. I was like, I'm not, I can't believe it because I don't believe anything until I see it. I got my hopes up too much for Kamala, and I'm like, I'll never do that again. So I didn't get too invested in the rumors. And I feel the same way, unfortunately, about Epstein and the list. I don't know if it's going to happen. I really, really hope it does. I hope enough people can come forward. I'm also worried he's already like tampered with it in some way. I just feel very disillusioned about it all. And I'm hopeful, but I'm not getting my hopes up too high. But dear God, baby Jesus, universe, please let this list be actually released.
Yeah, I mean, Project Veritas, which is a right wing. They're the ones that do all the undercover stuff and try to get people on camera saying certain things, and they usually attack all Democrats. I was a little shocked that Project Veritas did undercover and they talked to a guy. I don't know if it was a man that was part of the FBI, and he was talking on camera about how the plan is to eventually, when forced to release the list and just highlight any Democratic names on there, any people that are Democratic donors or whatever. So that was their plan all along, is still to cover for Trump. And then we know that Trump put what 1,000 FBI agents to try to eliminate the names in the file because he's on there. I think it was
That's
reported
right.
like 10,000. His name is in there 10,000 times. He's like, you know, he was Epstein's like best friend. So it's just, and just his history of rape and sexual abuse. Just, I think it's pretty obvious that he's all over the files. Whether anybody has reported of him actually doing anything to any underage girls, I think it remains to be seen. But to me, it's a high probability, and I think people know that. And just the way he's covered, and the way that the GOP, who used Epstein to rise to power and still used it, they have a majority in Congress acting like they cared about it. Now that shows that they just only care about power. These people are the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I'm also kind of convinced that unless there's explicit accusations about him, um, if the list is released and it's just all like he was there, like indirect kind of stuff, like I just feel like the people in Congress are not going to move to impeach or do anything unless it's in very clearly, explicitly said that it was done. And even like to a child, not even just a woman. It would have to be a child at that time. Because I'm just
Hmm.
convinced that at this point, they're gonna cover for him no matter what.
Yeah. Well, some other news. We had the National Guard sent to D.C. They're threatening Chicago, and now they're also threatening to send the National Guard to New Orleans. So that's kind of the news this week. To me, I don't know for sure if it'll happen because Trump and the GOP are trying to target like Democratic states with Democratic governors. So that's the and we talked about this before. Like almost all cities are blue. If there's any city over 500,000 people, there's going to be a large amount of Democrats there because Democrats, uh, they a lot of them live in the cities. They move out of rural areas. That's where a lot of the economic opportunity is. A diverse amount of people there, so naturally, most cities are blue. But he's only been screwing with the cities in blue states. So everybody was saying like, "Hey, why aren't you?" Because we saw that all the red states actually have the highest amount of crime in their
Hmm.
cities.
Hmm.
So he was ignoring that. So it's almost like he's like calling a
Right.
bluff. I don't know if he'll really
Hmm.
do it, um, but it just shows also that in New Orleans, for example, like crime has been plummeting. I think we have the
Historical lows.
Yeah, I think that we have the lowest murder rate since 1970 now
Hmm.
in New Orleans. Republicans love complaining about New Orleans, how it's just like crime infested. Um, but we
But
have the lowest
they
shootings
love
in five
going to New
years
Orleans. They
since
love going to New
yeah.
Orleans.
I mean, crime is plummeting. Shootings, carjackings, vehicle burglaries, all of those have just been plummeting um, since they had a resurgence during COVID and its
Right.
aftermath. So everybody, all the Republicans in Louisiana are like, yeah, bring the National Guard to New Orleans. And then they start saying like, oh, you don't want to fix crime or whatever. And they love doing this way of persuasion, like, oh, Democrats are protecting crime. That's
Yeah,
always
it's
what
that
they do.
defense thing again with the blowing up of the boat. It's the same method
Exactly.
of thinking. Same strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, Jeff Landry he could bring the National Guard to New Orleans at any time. Why didn't he think about it before? It's only because Trump is bringing it up.
Hmm.
And the problem with it is, you're going to have a lot of people standing there doing nothing. And yes, it may temporarily drop crime a little bit, but what are we just going to have military in all the streets in every city? That's not what it's for. And it hurts the economy as well because if there's just a large amount of military and troops and freaking tanks in a city, nobody wants to go there. People aren't going to be walking
Hmm.
around at night. and
Mhm.
going to visit the restaurant. So it hurts the economy as well. So all of these things, watching the Louisiana Republicans salivate over this, um, just shows that, I mean, we're just living in such an upside down world right now. And not sure how we can come out of it because,
Mhm.
yeah,
It's the end game too for me. It's like, okay, you're gonna send them, and then what? Then what happens? How long are they there for? Like, what's the end goal in it?
right.
Um, and as
They
you
don't
said,
have
there's
one. They
they
don't
don't
have
have
one.
one. There's no and that
They could
honestly,
easily invest in more police officers. We could, if you want more military or whatever, which again,
yeah,
these people aren't trained for crime stopping. That's what we have police officers for. If you think our police forces in New Orleans and other places are underfunded, well, you control the government. The GOP controls the supermajority. They have the governorship, all the statewide positions. They could easily infuse more money into the cities to help and make sure cops are paid better than what they are right now. Again, things have been cut so much. Investments in people in our communities have been cut so much. We're having to not pay officers and even teachers, of course, but officers aren't getting paid as much. And so we're losing a lot of our best officers. So if you really wanted to do this, you can invest and make sure that we have good police forces.
you're so right. And it was Tim Miller who lives in New Orleans. Like, New Orleans is literally at a point where they're only replacing street lights on an emergency basis. It's like, of course, if you're going to have dark alleyways all over the city, there's going to be crime happening. But
Yep.
it's like you can't even invest in the infrastructure for lighting, let alone more police force. And that also
Right.
just reminds me of I saw the New York Times did a kind of like a expose on the ICE uh, interviews and the recruitment process and the amount of money that they're giving these agents um, in comparison to things like teachers and policemen. It's like it was disgusting to see. It's like if that it's so backwards. Like, and you're so right because it's clear to us. You invest in people, you invest in infrastructure, and that's how you get things to improve and grow, and you start there. But no, they're just gonna hammer it home their way. They want this visual of like crime and punishment being dismantled. It's not treating the root of any causes, but that's
Exactly. They're not
that's
treating the
what they
root of
do.
crime. The root of crime, especially, is poverty
Exactly.
um, and dealing with mental issues and stuff like that, which we have completely, um, Louisiana has like the highest poverty rate and is growing. That leads to more crime, and that's why red states have more crime is because they don't invest in people, they don't invest in the communities, and they perpetuate poverty and put more guns on the street. So yeah, high levels of poverty, low levels of education investment, giving a lot of young people things to do during the summers and stuff like that. What mixed with more guns is just a recipe for more violent crime, and that's why red states do it. So they don't
And
have a reason for it, so they double down on bad ideas.
And they love to blame the mental health crisis when it
Hmm.
comes to guns and shootings, but they don't invest in the infrastructure for it. In fact, they gut that, which Trump did already. He gutted mental health services. So
Yeah,
the hypocrisy, the backwardsness, it just doesn't work that way. But
yeah.
here we are.
Speaking of ICE, I guess we're getting plenty of money from ICE because of all the new detention centers, concentration camps are building throughout Louisiana. They are um, uh, they expanded Angola. They got a lot of money to build this new ICE facility in Angola. Of course, they're saying for it's all these violent criminals and gangs, which is all bullshit. They're going to put regular like women and children in Angola is what they're going to do. It's such full of shit because they won't
Hmm.
admit it. So they just say like we're battling gangs. Like there's so many gangs in Louisiana, which there isn't
Yeah,
shit. There's none of that shit around here.
yeah, it's a disgrace. No, no civilian immigrants should be put in Angola. It's so wrong. And they're naming it Camp 57, which is Jeff Landry's like what, the 57th governor. And I'm like,
So stupid.
good, good,
Yeah,
good. I
yeah,
want that. I want that to go on your grave. Camp 57.
exactly.
That's your legacy. Good.
In the advertisement, I mean, this hurts Louisiana so much. Like our we used to have this image of Louisiana as just a fun-loving culture, with music, so many things. We have the Delta blues, we have jazz and stuff. We have Cajun music. We have just amazing food in New Orleans. We have great Cajun food and culture throughout Louisiana. We were sportsman's paradise. All of those things are now being washed away by this right-wing culture that has taken over Louisiana. Now when people are starting to think of Louisiana, they think of cancer, they think
Mhm.
of oil spills, they think of massive prisons and over incarceration. Um, they think
Soon to
of
be
ICE
data
now.
center. Soon to be data
They
centers.
exactly extraction, and now idiot right wingers in charge. So it's like they've destroyed the brand of Louisiana. It's going to be very hard to recover from this.
I also want to point out that they named it Camp
Hmm.
57, not just a number. So they're actually calling them camps now.
Admitting it's a concentration camp.
I thought that was startling when I saw that because it not even the name, like there was some sort of piece of news or one of them uh, said the word camp, and I was like, they're just calling it as it is now. So
Yeah.
wonderful. Should we end on a few words about the weird worm, brain worm bear killer, RFK Jr.?
Yeah, I was watching some of that yesterday live, when they brought RFK in front of Congress, in front of the Senate, I believe. And I would
So
encourage people to go
sad.
watch it. It was just such a clusterfuck. The whole time RFK, when he was being questioned, again, his face is like this dark red, brown, because he does like tanning booths and stuff like that, which we know uh, creates cancer and stuff. Like he's so unhealthy, and he was wheezing. He was wheezing into the microphone the whole time. It was very distracting. His own assistant had to like come and tell him like back away from the microphone. Um, so like the fact that everybody, all healthcare professionals, all the doctors have all got it wrong, and then this person, the epitome of what it looks like to be unhealthy and act unhealthy mentally and everything, is saying that he's the one that has it right.
If you look up in a dictionary of failing upward, his picture should be there. I mean, he is the epitome of privilege, and it's just he should have never even gotten a hearing, let alone approved to be the leader of our health in the United States of America. This, I think, more than also, we spoke about kind of the ripple effects of the global, uh, like what's happening with our some of our adversaries linking up with India, having economic ripples. This is going to have actual like lives, thousands, maybe perhaps millions of lives are on the line, especially if we hit another pandemic. Um, it's it's absolutely diabolical that he is in the position that he is in.
Yeah, and I want to remind people too, like he's an admitted drug abuser and drug dealer. I think his younger brother died of a drug overdose at the age of 28. His his ex-wife, I think he's probably had a couple ex-wives, but one of his ex-wives committed suicide because he was such a philanderer and kept a
She
diary
found,
of it or
yeah, she
something.
found his diary of his exploits when he was cheating on her.
Yeah. And this is the person that we're supposed to trust to lead our entire healthcare system. And it's like you said, it's a five-alarm fire right now. It's so scary hearing healthcare professionals on social media just screaming for help and warning us of the dire consequences that which took generations to build the kind of health structure that we have right now.
Bill Cassidy should be the most ashamed. I hope this is a stain on his legacy. It should be, as a doctor himself, a physician, and he was one of the last votes to get RFK Jr. in the position that he is. And
Hmm.
he's a Louisiana U.S. senator, and it's I that act of Bill Cassidy, the doctor, affirming RFK is again a symbol for just how far gone they are, and just completely cult-like brainwash mentality to approve
Yep.
that in.
Yeah. So I'm going to be in, to wrap it up, I'm going to be in Baton Rouge on Sunday, uh, talking to Pulse, which is a group of people that are battling against an amendment coming up next year in April, because people may have heard in Louisiana that St. George, which is a wealthy, uh, majority white community, trying to break off from Baton Rouge, which they succeeded in that, but now they're trying to break away from the school system and basically take away, um, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars from the school system in Baton Rouge, leaving, this is segregation all over again. So I'm going to talk with them because, I helped, as far as grassroots social media presence fight the amendments last time and we won. We're going to have to do it again in April. So if you're in Baton Rouge, come out and see me. Uh, Go to my social and you'll see the flyer there when it is.
Awesome. That's exciting you're going to that. And my Venezuelan in-laws leave tomorrow and don't know when they're coming back because of the travel ban. Um, Hopefully, we got, just so y'all know, for Venezuelans at least, my immigration attorney uh, said that it's officer discretion when any Venezuelans who have travel visas or student visas, apparently they are included in the travel ban, but apparently they are being let in. Now, we flew in, my family, last minute before the ban got instated, thinking it was real and they were going to enforce it. But yeah, they fly out tomorrow. Not sure when we're going to see them again. Hopefully soon. Hopefully that'll be okay, but we just don't know what's going to happen. Just feel like I'm at the mercy of a madman. So
Yeah.
anyway, we'll leave it at that. Um, Thanks for watching. Subscribe to get the show notes. Send it to a friend if you like it. And these are also uploaded to YouTube. You can give my channel a follow, Danielle Nava. And y'all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see y'all next Friday.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.